Kia ora, everybody. Fantastic to be here. Special thanks to Nick Whitehead and Marianne and the team for getting us on stage, and excited to be here. So over the next 30 minutes, we're going to be diving deep into a bit of a transformation story that I'm sure many of you are experiencing at the moment. How to harness AI to supercharge your customer insights and marketing functions, while of course navigating the very, very real challenges that go with it. So as Justin mentioned, I'm Nichola Quail, founder and CEO of Insights Exchange. We're a global market research agency, work with challenger and export brands, helping them scale with quality, scalable, and strategic data and insights. And so we do this through partnering with a global network of independent researchers and best-in-class research technology providers like Emporia, that we're going to hear from later. And some of our clients include Xero, Life360, Lentune, Trade Desk, and NZTE. So this morning we're going to take you behind the scenes of how Xero built a customer-centric organisation, from foundational research to embedding insights into daily decisions. We'll then explore how this global enterprise is now having to rebuild that entire function with AI and digital research tools. So yes, the technology rollout is one thing, but I'm sure many of you can appreciate it's actually the cultural and organisational shifts that are often the biggest challenge. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my two colleagues on the panel. So I'd like to welcome Dale McCarter, Global Insights Manager at Xero. So prior to Xero, Dale was an integral part of the Insights team at the Warehouse Group, and where we first started working together. So he spent the last 6 years transforming Xero's global insights function from just a handful of research pieces to managing over 300 global studies and picking up a few awards along the way. So Dale's going to share that kind of real-world story of modernising the insights function, including the bold decision to actually pause key research programs to allow and properly implement AI tools. And joining Dale with us, and first time to New Zealand, direct from Austin, is Michael Hess, co-founder and CEO of Emporia. It's an award-winning data collection and audience engagement platform powered by, funnily enough, what we just heard, the 1 billion profiles on LinkedIn. So kia ora, Michael. Michael, thankfully, is a big Lord of the Rings fan, so has started his childhood dream there. The platform is helping B2B brands turn market insights into measurable business outcomes with verified, high-quality data. But they've also been busy with a few other things that we're going to hear about soon. So Xero, Emporia, and Insights Exchange have been working closely together on a variety of programs, from Xero's global brand segmentation across 7 markets to the data-backed rollout of the global rebrand Your Business Supercharged. And as we know, it is these trusted partnerships that will become even more critical in today's crazy AI landscape. So I'm just going to see if these work.
All done, Ash?
Yep. And not just with the playground. With the help of Xero accounting software, I can keep my cash flow flowing. Woo! By giving my customers more ways to pay.
Thanks, Ash.
Plus, I can see what's coming in and going out. So I can focus on growing my business. It's business supercharged. Search Xero with an X.
Fantastic. So a lot of effort and a lot of work's been going on at Xero over the last 6 years, but Dale, even the last 12 months, it's been a busy time. So tell us about the Xero Insights transformation you've been going through.
Yes, and hello, is this on? Yeah. Yes, I think it's important just to kind of set the context on it in terms of what's been going on in the last 12 months. When I think of my time at Xero, I break it down into 3 sort of chapters, and that first chapter really was just laying down the foundation. When I started, I was the first hire in the market insights team. The business had made a deliberate decision to build out the customer and market insights function. And when I started, I guess the first thing that struck me is I kind of thought for the age and stage that Xero was at, there would be a lot more knowledge and market insights that already existed. But there was really only 2 to 3 global pieces of research that had been done, market research to be fair. So a lot of it was just laying down those foundational programs that you would expect the business to have. So embedding things like our brand performance tracking across regions, unifying them around those key metrics, things like segmentation, work on creative optimization, our pricing and packaging research, setting up online communities that have our accountants and bookkeepers and small businesses that we can interact really quickly and iteratively with. So that was kind of the focus initially, is just getting that foundational stage set up. You then get into the stage 2 or chapter 2, which is really just around trying to embed these insights within the business. So we had gone from, as Nikki said, that sort of 2 to 3 global pieces to sort of 300 global ones and multiple other studies that were more regional focused or product focused. In addition to, you've also got our voice of customer team, our design research team, our product analytics team. So you can just imagine the amount of information that we're then sitting on was then just trying to make sure we got the information in the hands of these key decision makers. And then, you fast forward to the last 12 months, and honestly, it really is the last 3 months in particular with the rate of change that's been going on. So the business has actually, as Nikki alluded to, made we've got obviously a great experimentation culture at Xero, and our leadership was very supportive and actually encouraged us to pause some of our regular ongoing programs so that we could, we're terming it supercharge the insights engine, and really just look at where it is across the whole end-to-end research process that we can be putting in new tools or tools we're already using, but just doubling down on them so that we can be getting the most out of that rich source of data that we're already sitting on.
Fantastic. And as part of that, some of this experimentation has taken you offshore. So Michael, over to you. So what does digital twins, accountants, and Stanford University have in common?
I mean, what don't those things have in common? Maybe I'll frame things a little bit with a bit of research that Stanford University put out about 8 months ago, which was pretty interesting, where they put out a study called Simulating 1,000 Humans, where they took 1,000 real, live, breathing people, consumers. They ran them through a 2-hour-long qualitative interview that was all behavioral and psychographic in its questioning, and from the transcripts of those 2-hour-long interviews, they created a digital twin or an AI replica of each of those participants. It's a little Black Mirror-esque, I know, but they had the real people then take a survey, and then afterwards they had their kind of digital twin counterparts take that same survey, and found repeatedly and reliably about an 85% match in how they answered questions, which not 100% of the way there, but pretty fascinating, right? And so they've open sourced their entire methodology, which is why we love academia, right? And so we've iterated on that quite a bit for B2B specifically. We really just do B2B work, we don't do consumer work. And so we've layered in an additional, call it hour of questioning that is more B2B and industry specific. So things like, tell me about your company culture and how decisions are made and what considerations do you have when buying software and how do you like your boss? And then, more industry-specific questions dependent on the set of twins that we're looking to create. And it was right around that time that we started experimenting with this, that we probably had a very challenging Xero and Insights Association or Insights Exchange project that we were working on, because there's always one of those going on, looking for accountants and bookkeepers in some obscure geo. And either Dale or someone on the team said, hey, could we use this new synthetic persona or digital twin concept that you're working on to maybe augment some of the research that we're doing? And we were, we thought maybe, but we're very early on in experimenting with this. This is not our core business, but it's kind of an R&D effort for us. But credit to Xero and crew, they said, hey, that's fine with us. We'd love to be a design partner and test and learn and iterate with you all. And so we said, great, let's do it. So we kind of rolled up our sleeves. We recruited 100 accountants and bookkeepers across the US, Australia, and the UK. we ran them through this again, 2.5 hour long interview framework from Stanford, and created these, digital twin accountants and bookkeepers. And so they're really neat. You can survey them, you can interview them and chat with them as a cohort, or even just one-to-one. And so, so that's where we're at, and that's what Stanford and digital twins and accountants and bookkeepers have in common.
And so with Emporia, how are you using your, I guess, base business model to power these twins?
Yeah, so we kind of position ourselves as a B2B audience activations tool or activation company, where we're best known for driving very targeted professional audiences into market research surveys and interviews. We do a couple other little things, but that's what we're best known for. We've got a platform that sits on top of LinkedIn, so about 800 million professional records. You can come in and filter on all that you would filter on LinkedIn Sales Navigator or a Zoom Info or the like. We'll show you all the LinkedIn profiles that match on your query, and if they're representative of who you want to run your research with, we'll reach out to those folks. Not to make this a sales pitch at all, but we used our recruitment technology to recruit those accountants and bookkeepers, and that's how we are able to basically go out and reach out to any kind of set or subset of professional audiences to sit for these interviews that create these synthetic personas and digital twins.
Fantastic. And we do have a demo later, but I'll get to that when my clicker starts working again. But Dale, for an organisation like Xero to go, fantastic, we don't know what the end output's going to be. We don't have an ROI. In fact, it's even hard to build a business case with testing this new technology. How did you go about kind of bringing the organisation along the journey, and also what have been some of your key learnings so far?
Yeah, great question. I think I'll start with the learning sides of it, because it kind of talks to how we needed to bring the business along the journey as well. So I think the first learning is just around the quality challenge. Like, AI is a double-edged sword. So the rate of fraudulent responses in research, in other words, like junk data, either people not paying much attention, not putting in good answers, and or AI and bots being used to take surveys, has been increasing over the years, but we've now reached a point where it is, through traditional research panels, that it is just getting ridiculous. To put it in perspective, we use the Emporia team for that LinkedIn verified high quality sample, but we also use traditional research panels as well for some of our studies. And just in July, we had our typical scrub rate, which is removing that junk data, go from 30% to the last 2 weeks of July it going to 70%. And that was around the time of a lot of AI releases out into market, including OpenAI's or ChatGPT's agent mode as well. So obviously, in terms of the journey, you need to be having high quality data. So it's just been really cognizant of that, and making sure that you're partnering with good research agencies, the likes of Insights Exchange, that have the knowledge of the different panels to try and achieve the objectives that your businesses are trying to achieve. And then obviously, when you really do need to double down for really high stakes research or hard to reach audiences, in our case with accountants and bookkeepers, leveraging partners like Emporia to make sure that you have got that really high quality data. So that's probably the first one. The second one, and obviously we've already said that the business made that bold decision to pause some of our ongoing research, but I really do feel and have observed that you need to slow down to speed up. So these tools, while they promise like velocity, speed, efficiency, if you don't take the time to properly look at how you're going to embed them in your workflows, test them out, are they actually a lot of these tools can be very good, but they fall quite defined use cases, but it takes time to actually test that out and validate it. So just actually allowing your team that time and space to test things, to work through, does mean that you'll get the velocity. It doesn't come during it, it's post it. So just making sure you create that time and space for it. And then the third one is just that, at least at the moment where a lot of the research tools are at, they're great for iteration, but I wouldn't say we're not at a stage that they can be replacing your traditional research methods. So in terms of iteration, to give an example, our global segmentation program of work that we did, We then partnered with a business called Yabble, who has virtual personas. So we gave it our global segmentation information, created these virtual personas that we could then iterate and chat with. They've recently actually just released a image functionality that you can put creative, you can put messaging in front of it and get sort of feedback. So it's great for things like customer value propositions and creative and just doing more iterative tests. To be clear, we're very much early on in that journey and doing validation on it ourselves, but you can see once we start equipping our marketers, product, strategy team with these things, it does help that sort of iterative piece, so that when you get to that more pointy end and you're wanting to really validate it, to make sure you have got that deep human empathy, that understanding, that nuance, it has helped you along the journey and speed up that process as well.
So it's really, as you said, kind of augmenting and partnering together AI and human. Fantastic. Well, Michael, I know sometimes it's not all smooth sailing when you're trying to build an MVP. So
what are you talking about?
What have been some of your learnings so far?
I think maybe just generally speaking, through a partnership lens, it's just a key learning is just so important to come and be as transparent and open and honest with your partners, from the start. The more you do that, the more trust that you build, the better that you're going to work with partners and the better outcomes that you'll have. When Xero and the team asked us if we could build them a synthetic audience, the answer was not yes, like 100% for sure. We've got you. These accountant bookkeepers are awesome. You're going to love them. It was no. We think we know, maybe, and we're going to learn a lot as we go. And then maybe more specifically on some of these digital twins and synthetic personas, learnings that we've had. There are use cases that are maybe deployable today that are interesting and could work, and then certainly ones that don't work today and might not ever work. So maybe don't do your pricing and packaging research just yet with synthetic personas. Maybe talk to some real people before you think about pricing a new product or repricing a product. But use cases that are pretty solid today are qualitative simulations, so simulating a customer, having a conversation with them, chatting with them, just lightning fast message testing and concept testing, and then a little bit less sexy of a one, but just doing a kind of a pre-survey before you maybe get into field with real people, having synthetic personas or digital twins take that survey first before you spend a whole lot of money on your marketing research to get out into field and recruiting real folks. You can maybe spot some flags in survey design or otherwise, or maybe decide to add additional question based on some feedback that he gets from some of your synthetic personas.
And we've actually got the video now, just because I think sometimes it could be hard to picture, like, what do you mean chatting to a synthetic persona? So can you give us a snapshot of what we're about to see?
Yeah,
or shall I just play it?
I kind of intro it, I believe, we'll quickly interact with some of these synthetic personas, both at a cohort level and then on an individual level, and take a look at how you would use them in practice.
All right, brilliant. I think it's working. Is that like playing?
All right, you might be thinking, what do these digital twins look like in practice? Well, I'll give you a very quick look. We're here inside of the Emporia platform, where you can see over on the left here, we have several different what we call agent banks. These are made up of any number of synthetic personas or digital twins that sat for one of these 2-hour-long qualitative interviews that's more behavioral and psychographic in its questioning. And so I'm here on the IT decision makers bank. You can see that from these 110 agents or personas or digital twins, we can pull together top-level themes by category, things like career journey, professional development and opportunity, work practice and relationships. You can also chat with the entire cohort, so you can ask the entire cohort any number of questions here. But then you can get as granular as looking at the actual agents themselves. These are the folks that are real people, right, that sat for this interview, where you can see the information that we have on folks, and then you can ask them individually and have conversations with each of them, these agents yourself. This is all text-based today, but you can imagine this will be multimodal very soon, where you can upload, even add creative, for example, and do message testing and creative testing. Now, jumping over quickly to an actual project here, you can build a survey that you can execute these agents against. So many different question types, skip logic, anything you would expect from a typical survey builder. You can look at the agents themselves here as well. So you can, again, click into any one of these agents, see the information that we have on folks, and then also see how their digital twin would reply to your survey. And so we give both the answer as well as reasoning and a confidence score. And so this is the reasoning why Brandon, in this case, answered this question in this way. And so you can look at each of these individual responses, the reasoning and the agent confidence, but then you can also, of course, see a top line report of how all of these folks are responding to questions. And so obviously, very quick lightning round demo here, but that is what is going on in practice with these digital twins.
Brilliant. Thanks, Michael. So, Dale, what advice would you have for marketers managing customer insights in this new AI world?
Yeah, probably just reiterating what I was saying before, but you've just got to be bold enough to actually create that space for your teams and for yourself to actually do that learning. We had spent about 9 months trying to fit these things in between our normal work, and we definitely learned things, but sort of 10% of your time isn't going to be able to get you where you need to be as quick as you need to be. So creating that dedicated space so that you can actually then accelerate quickly post is really important. Obviously, we've emphasised today the data quality side of things, but that's not the area to be cutting corners, so just make sure that you're doubling down on that side of things. Equally, obviously, keeping in mind that the third kind of key thing I'd say is for those businesses that have been around for longer, you'll be sitting on huge knowledge banks, and this information is absolute gold for feeding information to these digital twins, to building out knowledge on top of these large language models. So just really making sure that you're leveraging that, as well as obviously some of these AI tools are amazing at synthesizing information and data. So actually that speed to insight for people within your organizations that sometimes don't realize that question's already been answered can now close that loop incredibly quickly. So yeah, just really making sure that you're doubling down on the information that you already have as well.
That's interesting because I know, Gemini, you've been testing and road testing Gemini and almost migrating. So to your point, kind of building that data lake and leveraging that existing data lake. So yeah, how's Xero been using Gemini at an enterprise level?
Yeah, so Gemini is like our probably most prevalent tool across the whole business. So just from those day-to-day quick questions and interactions through to all that data that I was mentioning before, just sitting there where you can kind of interact with it on that sidebar and search within particular folders and information, and it comes back with summaries and sources. It's just really is a game changer, to be fair. There's obviously a huge amount of other tools out there that we're exploring as well that can look across more than just those folders, your Slack channels, your Gmails, all those other sort of things as well. So still very much, I'd say, at the beginning of it, but it has definitely been a game changer so far, just in how quickly it brings that information to the top.
Fantastic. And Michael, what about you? I mean, you've been going on the journey with a lot of B2B brands. So what advice would you have for marketers in this new world?
Yeah, maybe 3 bits of advice. The first is to experiment with some of these tools, right? You won't really be aware of their capabilities if you're not actually getting in there and signing up for free trials and kicking the tires on things. So the first bit is, actually experiment with the tools if you can. And then second is keep up with, as best you can, with the latest and greatest of what's going on. Hard to experiment and use things if you're not totally aware of what's new. I've found, for me, the best way to do that is actually through YouTube. I think YouTube's got the best combination of just relevancy and recency and substance, whereas maybe Twitter or X is kind of the headline of something, but there are quite a few YouTube channels where folks, every day, every week, every month are doing recaps and roundups of the latest and greatest tools. I've got maybe afterwards, if anyone's interested, a whole list of, a ton of YouTubers that I really enjoy for this stuff, but maybe just 2 that are awesome that just really don't miss are Matt Wolf. If folks are familiar, that's Wolf with an E, and the other is Wes Roth. Those are my personal 2 favorite. I should probably get a social life and not watch AI news like every day, every week. But those two are awesome and really do a great job of stress testing tools and giving honest feedback on how to use them. And then lastly is if you're keeping up with things but you can't experiment with them, maybe because your company's got a little bit of a procurement layer that makes that a challenging thing. I used to work for global marketing for Marriott, the hotel company, largest hotel company in the world. We had to fight tooth and nail just to use a free tool because it had to go through a vendor approval process. And so if that sounds like you at your company, recommendation would be lean on partners to test some of this stuff for you and give you honest feedback. I think, Dale, you were saying the other day that sometimes if this is the case with Xero and you can't get approval for a new tool, you just kick that over to Nikki and ask her to test it out, and she does. And so having these relationships are really important to just keep on top of everything, because it's this new world that we're in is just moving so fast with new things every day, every week, every month. So experiment with the tools, keep up with the tools, and if you can, experiment with the tools and keep up with them, find partners who can.
Fantastic. Yeah, I definitely saw a few nodding heads with trying to get. So I've got a couple more questions, but I'd also want to give a chance. Oh, right up the back there, straight away. So there we go. Questions?
Thanks. Hi. Super interesting about what you could do. There's a bit about my head that goes, God, this is a really interesting ethical dilemma. How do you... Because I wonder, back in the 60s, there's a whole heap of experiments that went on that now we look back on and we say, God, that was dodgy. I kind of wonder, like, these people look like they're giving their information freely, but really we're at the kind of dawning age of this. Anyway, I just wondered what your thought process had been around that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
directly to you, thanks.
Yeah, I think we're all figuring that out. It's a great question. Everyone that has participated thus far, we've got a network of about 500,000 folks that have participated with us in some form of research in the last, call it 2 to 3 years. And so they're the folks that we already have a relationship with, that we go to first for some of this new territory. We have a whole different set of T's and C's that folks are basically opting into to create their digital twin. But to incentivize them to participate in these types of things, something that we do, we're not, we don't deliver on this completely today, but somewhere that we'd like to get to in the near future is offering folks, if they sit for this 2-hour-long interview to create their digital twin, to offer them a royalty or a commission every time their twin goes off into the world and answers questions on their behalf. And we have kind of a period of time that we're deciding for ourselves that data starts to decay, and we need folks to log back in and kind of share more information with us. And we kind of have a stopping point in which you're able to earn some of these royalties or commissions or what have you. And so just as we're being totally transparent with some of our partners, we want to let our participants and panelists, so to say, know kind of what they're getting into, but then also what they kind of stand to earn to start these types of newer relationships with a lot of trust.
You could probably just yell it.
I've got a follow-on question. I'm just interested in the commercial model. So you've taken 2 hours of someone's time and then you've made it available kind of infinitely, at any time. How much does Xero save, and how much do you make extra like you're not paying a human?
Yeah, so there's 2 ways to create these twins. I didn't really touch too much on the one. Obviously, having someone sit for a 2 or 3 hour long interview can be a bit cost prohibitive. We are incentivizing them for their time. We pay them just as if we were paying them to sit for just a regular qualitative interview, research engagement. But another way that you can build these is through what we call memories. And so if you're sitting on, say, 100 qualitative transcripts that from some research you did last year, and they're on a SharePoint somewhere, we can ingest those and hydrate them with a bunch of LinkedIn data. It's already your kind of data anyway, and we kind of keep that in a secure environment for you, and we can create twins that way, and they're not as maybe high fidelity as folks that have sat for this very specific stamp of approval framework. But in terms of commercials, there's kind of and maybe also for the record, we are very much still in our design phase with some of these twins, and there's no shortage of synthetic persona companies that have rushed to market, mostly on the consumer side of things. Some of them are great, but then there's a long tail that are a bit dodgy, I'd say. And so we're still kind of iterating and working through the commercial model, but our plan to kind of bootstrap a network of twins is to create verticalized sets of twins. So you're like IT decision maker sets at enterprise companies that are in this greater network that folks can pull into and use. But a more called affordable tier for folks that want to add their twins that they've created using their own data to the network. And maybe there's some kind of kickback you get when your twins are used. But that's all kind of a little down the road, and we're trying to answer some of those questions for ourselves.
Fantastic.
Dale, is it cheaper for you?
And then the final question, and you don't have to answer that totally.
No,
but
I think we're very much at the early stages of testing them out. So I think with something like, as Michael said, we're probably earlier with them than we are with a platform like Yabble. It is cheaper with that to iterate there. It's just kind of like a setup and upload fee, but then the chatting back and forth is kind of already covered in some of that setup that you do. So that's definitely cheaper, and obviously you can get it into more hands within your business to iterate as well. So.
Yes, but we would absolutely say keep the human well and truly in the loop to benchmark against. But anyway, I would like to say thank you so much to Dale and Michael. Really appreciate it.